guests, my name is Inga Huld and I'm honored to be speaking to you on youth and well-being. So to start off with a little bit about me, I hold a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics from the University of Iceland. And I'm starting my master's studies in statistics at Imperial College, London, next autumn. And currently I'm working at the Ministry of Education and Children. I sit as one of Iceland's youth delegates to the United Nations, focusing on children and youth matters. And today I will be speaking to you as a youth delegate. Additionally, I have worked with the Icelandic Youth Environmentalist Association on climate matters, and I'm one of the organizers of this year's Reykjavik Slut Walk, an annual march to show solidarity with survivors of sexual violence and protest gender-based discrimination. In my activism work, my main focus has been on equality, quality education for all, and climate matters. Well, you might think that this is a very wide focus area, but I do see it differently. All of the matters, they intertwine, and it's hard to talk about one without mentioning the other. So this brings me to the matter at hand today, the youth. And we do like to talk about young people. Oh, these young folks today, they like to mention that we don't go outside like you guys did in the good old days, or young people today always on their phones, and all this toxic social media, they're ruining our children. But I want to mention that this is also young people today. They are taking a stand and they're raising their voices. They're demanding their voices to be heard and actually listened to. And they are demanding space, but not any space. They are demanding an inclusive, safe space for all young people and children to be heard and given an opportunity to make a change. And if decision makers do not make this space, we will simply raise our voice louder. We will take to the streets and we'll make this space for ourselves. But here in Iceland, this has been changing through the years, and with more active participation and consultation with young people and children, both at a local and national level, especially on matters that are directly related to children and youth. And additionally, here in Iceland, we have started work in investing more in the well-being and specifically the prosperity of children. Because many here before today talked about economy and money. Then it has been shown that investing in the well-being and prosperity of children doesn't only return us social good, but also economic gain. But recently, I was at the United Nations ECOSOC Youth Forum, which I attended representing the Icelandic youth. And at the forum, young people came together from all over the world and learned from each other. And it was extremely prominent in all discussions and all events, no matter what topic we were discussing. The environmental issues always came up. And scientists, as maybe some of you, most of you do know, predict that the consequences of climate change will be drastic all around the globe, although varying degrees between places. And these predictions are raising loud calls for action. But the call isn't only on reducing emissions, it's also to adapt to inevitable changes, to prevent human rights violations and protect vulnerable groups such as children and young people. And we need action to protect the well-being of future generations against the consequences of climate change. So what do young people and children think? Last year, the Committee on the Rights of the Child conducted a survey and consultation project about environmental matters. The project reached 7,500 children around 100 countries, and about 90% answered that they do believe that climate change is a threat to future generations. And additionally, 42% of them answered that their lives have changed in consequence to a natural disaster, and in conversation they did realize that there is a connection between these natural disasters and climate change. And also newly, there was a survey amongst young people in Iceland regarding what sustainable development goal they find the most important. The majority found SDG 13, climate action, be the most important. And they found that the government is performing poorly or very poorly in this field. So young people do strongly realize the severity of the situation that climate change is, and they are raising up. All around the world, young people are leading the fight against climate change. Strong grassroots organizations such as the Icelandic Youth List Association have really put their mark on society. Because it's not children and young people all over the world that are responsible for climate change. It's not the indigenous people or the inhabitants of small islands that are at risk of rising sea levels, nor the animals that are going extinct. Future generations and the unborn are not responsible for climate change, but they will suffer the consequences. With inaction, delusions, and empty promises, governments all over the world are robbing a large portion of both future and present generations the right to live in a safe, healthy, and sustainable environment. So they are robbing our future well-being. And we are not supposed to pay for the inaction of past generations. How can we strive for well-being when the calls for climate action from youth to protect our home, save our planet and our future are being ignored? But it's not only climate change that matters to young people. So many things matter, and the list here is not exhaustive. And like Irish mentioned, mental health is a huge issue, an important matter for children and young people. But I do have a couple more points here on the slide. We need more and better diverse sexual health education in schools. In a nationwide survey conducted last year in Iceland among 16-year-olds, 15% of girls answered that they had experienced sexual abuse by a peer or another teenager. I found this number alarming, so let me say it again so it sticks. 15% of girls that answered that they had experienced sexual abuse by a peer or another teenager. We need to be teaching children and young people proper sexual health, how to communicate and respect each other. You should not be lucky to receive this education because one teacher in your school was extra ambitious. This education should not be merely one event when the youth club invites a lecturer to come and talk about sexual health. Our well-being should matter more. The well-being of our young girls should matter more. But we also need to care for our LGBTQ+ youth, their health, safety, and rights. Democracy. Are we raising children and young people to become active participants in democracy? How can they be active participants today? We need to ensure quality education for all, regardless of gender, financial standings, where you live, where you come from. Quality education for all is one of the keys to well-being, both today and in the future. So it's not enough to talk about young people. How about talking to young people? Actually listening to them and what they have to say. There needs to be space for children and young people to get involved and have an impact. The issues of today and well-being today and in the future also matters to us. And it's also often talked about how children and young people are the future. But it seems to be forgotten that we are also the present. We are leaders today. It is important that we have equal rights and opportunities to participate in society, and particularly in decision-making processes, and that our opinions and views are respected and valued, both today and in the future. Children and youth have a voice. We have a strong voice. Now it's time for you to listen. And that's the only way we can strive towards well-being for children, youth, and all. Thank you.